March in Boston still had a chilly feel, a remnant of winter. Patricia Wilson looked up at the gray sky outside her window as she took a sip of coffee. From her penthouse office, she had a perfect view of the Charles River. On her desk were stacks of documents and 3 monitors lined up side by side. As the founder and CEO of the accounting firm Wilson Financial Consulting, Patricia's days were always busy. "Patricia, there's an urgent call from the CFO of Brakewood Company." Jessica, her assistant, knocked and peeked her head through the door. Patricia took a deep breath and straightened her back. "Thank you, Jessica. Could you put the call through? And would you remind me about my lunch appointment?" After finishing the conference call with her client, Patricia's eyes turned to the silver frame placed in the corner of her desk. It was a photo from 5 years ago, taken during a vacation in Hawaii with her ex-husband, Bradley Morris. She didn't know why she still kept this photo. It had been 5 years since the divorce. She had explained to everyone that it was a separation for mutual growth, but the truth was much more complicated. When she left the office for lunch, an envelope had arrived in her mailbox. It was made of high-quality, thick cream-colored paper. When she opened it, she found an elaborately decorated wedding invitation. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Carol Wilson and blank." Patricia frowned. The groom's name was left blank. She turned the invitation over and read the handwritten note attached. "Pat, it's a surprise, so I'm keeping the groom's name a secret until the ceremony. You must come. It's a very special day for me. With love, Carol." It was just like her to do something like this. Her sister Carol had always wanted to be the center of attention since childhood. Their parents, especially their father Howard, had raised Carol as a special child. While Patricia was the serious and responsible older daughter, Carol was free-spirited and had always gotten whatever she wanted. Patricia put the invitation back in her bag and headed to the restaurant. Throughout the meal, her mind kept returning to her sister's wedding. Communication from Carol had significantly decreased lately. The relationship between the sisters had always been complicated, a mix of competition, jealousy, and sometimes an inexplicable bond. That night, Patricia called her parents. "Oh, Pat. Did you receive Carol's invitation?" Her mother Martha's voice couldn't hide her excitement. "Yes, it arrived today. But the groom's name wasn't written on it." "Oh, that girl. She always likes to be dramatic," Martha chuckled. "But he's a wonderful man. Perfect for Carol. I think you'll like him." "Have you met him?" Patricia asked. "Of course. He's joined us for family gatherings several times." Patricia frowned. She hadn't been invited to these gatherings. "Pat, are you listening?" Howard's voice cut into the phone conversation. "It's Carol's wedding. You must attend. It's a special day for her." "Of course, Dad. I'll adjust my work schedule." After hanging up, Patricia took a glass of wine and stood by the window. The Boston skyline stretched out below her. She was successful. She had passed the challenging CPA exam and established her own company just 3 years after her divorce. Yet in front of her family, she was still just a Pat, always the academically excellent but slightly boring older daughter. She checked the date on the invitation. 3 weeks from now. Patricia marked her calendar and took a deep breath. It had been a while since the last family gathering. And her sister's surprise. For some reason, anxiety spread through her chest. But to maintain family harmony, she had to attend. Patricia picked up the photo frame from her desk and put it in a drawer. The past was the past. She had to look forward now. Telling herself this, she began reviewing materials for tomorrow's meeting. The spires of St. Luke's Cathedral reached toward the spring blue sky. Patricia parked her car in the church parking lot and checked her appearance in the rearview mirror. Her navy blue simple dress flattered her slender figure, and her hair was elegantly styled in an updo. Her makeup was perfect. At least outwardly, she appeared calm. Inside, it was different. Anxiety from the night before was tightening her stomach. Patricia still didn't know what Carol's surprise was. Communication from her sister had remained minimal, and nothing had been revealed about the groom. Many people had already gathered in the church courtyard. Patricia walked slowly, exchanging greetings with distant relatives and old friends. There seemed to be surprise in their eyes, as if her presence was unexpected. "Patricia. You came." Martha rushed over to Patricia. She was wearing an elegant lavender dress, and her hair looked freshly styled at a salon. "Of course, Mom. It's my sister's wedding." Patricia gave her mother a light kiss. "Where's Dad?" "Oh, he's with Carol. It's a special day, you know." Martha's smile seemed to hide something. "I hope you'll enjoy the surprise." Martha left to greet other relatives, leaving Patricia alone. She took out her smartphone and checked her newly arrived emails. Despite it being the weekend, there were several inquiries from important clients. She was trying to escape the strange tension by focusing on work. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The ceremony is about to begin." Inside the church, a path decorated with out-of-season white lilies and blue delphiniums stretched before her. Patricia was guided to the family seats in the front row. Howard was already seated. He stood up and embraced Patricia. "I'm glad you came." Howard's voice trembled slightly with emotion. "Of course," Patricia replied, maintaining her smile. The organ music began to fill the church, signaling the start of the ceremony. All attendees stood, waiting for the entrance. Patricia took a deep breath, trying to calm her mind. First, the minister appeared at the altar. Then, the groomsmen lined up. And when the groom appeared, Patricia's world stood still. Bradley Morris. Her ex-husband. Patricia couldn't believe her eyes. Dressed in a black tuxedo, Bradley looked the same as he did 5 years ago. He might have gained a little weight, but that confident smile and challenging gaze were the same. He stood at the altar, gazing toward the back of the church, waiting for Carol's entrance. "Surprised?" Howard whispered in Patricia's ear. Patricia was speechless. Her heart pounded violently, and she felt her cheeks flush. She could hardly breathe. The organ music for the bride's entrance began. All the attendees stood. Patricia rose mechanically, feeling lightheaded but somehow managing to stay upright. Carol entered on Father Howard's arm. Dressed in a pure white gown, she was radiant. With a happy smile on her face, her eyes were fixed only on Bradley. Memories from the past flooded Patricia's mind like a tidal wave. Her marriage to Bradley. The days that were happy at first. Then the relationship that gradually began to crack. His unexplained overnight absences. The changed password on his cell phone. And finally, the messages she found. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the sight of God to celebrate the union of these two people." The minister's words seemed to come from far away. Patricia just stared ahead, focusing all her energy on keeping her expression neutral. Throughout the ceremony, she observed Bradley and Carol. The intimacy flowing between them. The natural way Carol touched Bradley's arm. This was not a new relationship. It had been going on for a long time. "Do you both pledge to welcome each other as husband and wife?" "I do," Bradley's voice echoed through the church. Carol repeated the same words. Rings were exchanged, and the minister declared them husband and wife. The church erupted in applause at the kiss of the bride and groom. Patricia smiled and applauded. Like a perfect actress, she crafted an expression of blessing. But inside, a storm was raging. Following the newlyweds, Patricia exited the church with her parents. Everyone gathered in the churchyard for photographs. "Pat, over here. Family photo." Carol waved, calling her over. Patricia approached slowly. Her first face-to-face with Bradley. His eyes showed confusion and a little fear. "Hello, Patricia," he said in a low voice. "It's been a while." "Yes, it has," Patricia answered calmly. "Congratulations, Brad." At the photographer's direction, they stood side by side. Patricia next to Carol, Bradley on the opposite side. With each flash, Patricia maintained her smile. After the photo session, Patricia pretended to head to the restroom to have some time alone. Inside a stall in the ladies' room, she finally covered her face with trembling hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger and betrayal. Wiping her tears and fixing her makeup in front of the mirror, Patricia told herself, this is not their victory. This is just the beginning. In the limousine heading to the reception venue, Patricia stared out the window and began to formulate a plan. Something inside her was beginning to change. She was no longer the wounded ex-wife. She had the weapon of truth. When the time came to use it, it would be powerful. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton Boston was filled with the soft light of candles and the shimmer of crystal chandeliers. Tables were decorated with white roses and lilacs, with champagne glasses lined up. Everything was perfect. And expensive. Patricia sat at the designated family table and took a sip of champagne. Next to her sat Doris, her mother Martha's best friend. She was a chatty woman who kept talking to Patricia, but the words weren't registering in Patricia's head. Her gaze was fixed on the newlyweds' table. Carol was enveloped in happiness. Her laughter echoed throughout the hall, and the way she clung to Bradley's arm seemed to be showing him off like a possession. "So I told him, I don't care about your ex-wife at all." Doris's words pulled Patricia's attention back. "I beg your pardon?" Patricia asked. "Oh, I'm sorry, dear." Doris looked a bit flustered. "We were all wondering how you would feel about this situation. Considering your past with Bradley." "My past?" Patricia asked calmly. "Yes, how you left him and walked out. But now it seems Carol is making him happy, which is really good." Patricia froze. She left him? The truth was completely the opposite. Bradley was the one who betrayed her and asked for the divorce. "Aunt Doris, the details of our divorce are private. Today is Carol and Brad's day," Patricia said with a smile. "Let's toast to them." Fortunately, the toast music began to play, interrupting her conversation with Doris. The MC took the microphone and announced the entrance of the newlyweds. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Bradley and Carol Morris." Amid the applause, the couple entered hand in hand onto the dance floor. Carol had already changed into a reception dress. It had a deeply plunging neckline, and a diamond necklace sparkled at her throat. That necklace. Patricia caught her breath the moment she saw it. It was the one Bradley had given her on their second wedding anniversary. The reception proceeded smoothly. The food was first class, and the music was perfect. Patricia maintained a sociable smile as she conversed with various relatives and friends. However, her heart was beginning to realize that the story had been rewritten without her knowledge. The rumor that she had been a cold wife who abandoned Bradley was already believed by many people. "And now, we invite the bride to give her speech," the MC announced. Carol stood in the center of the dance floor, holding a champagne glass. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement. "Thank you all for coming today," Carol began, her voice trembling. "I am so happy. To be able to marry the most wonderful man in the world. She sent a glance to Bradley, who smiled back proudly. Brad, you are everything I've ever dreamed of. A successful young businessman. Kind, thoughtful, and above all, faithful. Carol paused here and glanced briefly in Patricia's direction. The meaning embedded in the word faithful was clear. I think our meeting was destiny. I'm proud that I could be by your side when you were establishing Morris Enterprises. And now. She paused again and looked around the room. Then she fixed her gaze on Patricia. Now I'm the CEO's wife. Don't be jealous, big sister. Carol said this with a light laugh. Laughter rippled through the venue. It was taken as a joke. But for Patricia, it was clearly a biting irony. That's so like Carol, Martha whispered to Patricia. She's always liked jokes. Patricia just smiled. In her mind, she was counting the clients from her company who were invited to the wedding. 5 major clients had been invited. They didn't know about Bradley's company. Not yet. After Carol's speech, it was Father Howard's turn. He took the microphone, visibly moved. My beloved daughter Carol, and my new son Bradley. Today is truly a special day, Howard said, his voice trembling. Since she was little, Carol had a special light. No matter what she did, she had the talent to brighten up her surroundings. Howard continued, and now, she has found a wonderful man. Bradley, I know you will make our family's daughter happy. Patricia listened quietly. She couldn't remember if her father had given such a moving speech at her own wedding. Howard raised his glass and led the toast, to Carol and Bradley's eternal happiness. After the toast, dance time began. Patricia stood up and headed to the bar. She needed some time alone. A martini, please. Dry, she told the bartender. Pat, suddenly, Father Howard appeared next to her. Let's talk for a bit. Patricia took a deep breath. What is it, Dad? I was concerned about your expression after Carol's speech, Howard said in a low voice. I thought you were a mature adult. The past is the past. Bradley is now Carol's husband. I know that. No, it doesn't seem like you do, Howard said with a stern expression. You always complicate everything. Properly wish Carol happiness. She's the star today. I am wishing her well, Patricia answered calmly. I'm just surprised. Why didn't anyone tell me beforehand? That was Carol's wish. She was worried you might still be hung up on your past with Bradley. Howard lifted his glass and took a sip. To be honest, I had the same concern. You're always so focused on work and haven't started a new life. Carol has moved on. You should do the same. Patricia said nothing and accepted her martini. Standing next to her father, she gradually began to smile. Howard looked confused by her smile. What's so amusing? Nothing, Patricia said gently. I was just thinking how life sometimes takes unexpected turns. Patricia returned her gaze to the dance floor. Carol and Bradley were dancing happily. A circle of blessings surrounded them. As the night wore on, the reception atmosphere became more intimate. Many guests had already begun to leave, with only close family and friends remaining. Patricia went out to the terrace and gazed at the Boston night view. The moonlight reflected on the distant Charles River, creating a fantastic scene. What are you thinking about all alone? She didn't need to check who it was. It was Bradley. He stood next to Patricia, gazing at the night view just as she was. He appeared slightly drunk. His tie was loosened, and his hair was a bit disheveled. A familiar voice, Patricia replied calmly. Congratulations, Brad. Today is your big day. Thank you, he stammered slightly. Patricia, about today. I know it was a surprise. I wanted a chance to explain. Explain what? That you married my sister? Patricia smiled sarcastically. Or that my parents had already welcomed you as a son? Bradley frowned unpleasantly. The past is the past. We didn't work out. But with Carol, it's different. She understands me. Yes, Patricia tilted her wine glass. She understands you very well. Since before our divorce. The blood drained from Bradley's face. What are you saying? Did you tell my parents the real reason we divorced? Patricia asked quietly. That you were having an affair with Carol? Or did you create a story that I was a cold wife who couldn't understand you? It was complicated, Bradley answered, choosing his words. You were always working and didn't make time for our relationship. I was working to support your startup, Patricia said coldly. I sacrificed my time and career to pursue your dreams. And you were sleeping with my sister. Bradley remained silent. He didn't have the courage to deny Patricia's words. But that's all in the past now. Patricia changed the subject. Let's talk business. How is Morris Enterprises? Carol called you a successful young businessman. Bradley's expression brightened. He happily accepted the opportunity to talk about his business. It's going well. We've opened a new office on the West Coast and expanded our client base. The investors are satisfied. Oh, really? Patricia said, appearing impressed. That's wonderful. Is Michael Rosberg still investing? Michael, Bradley hesitated. He has temporarily withdrawn his funds. Due to market conditions. But he'll be back soon. I see, Patricia smiled. But from what I've heard, Michael discovered accounting fraud in your company and is considering legal action. The blood drained from Bradley's face. What? Who told you that? I'm still an accountant, Brad, Patricia said quietly. And you seem to forget, I also introduced your initial investors. They still keep in touch with me. He was at a loss for words. Shock and fear flickered in his eyes. Don't worry, Patricia lightly touched his shoulder. I don't intend to sue you. But you should tell Carol the truth. Patricia, please, Bradley lowered his voice. Today is her special day. Don't hurt her. Me? Hurt her. Patricia chuckled. You're the one who will hurt her. What will you do when your company goes bankrupt? What will happen to her position as a CEO's wife? Bradley was trembling. I need time. I can turn things around. Please, don't tell Carol now. All right, Patricia said gently. I won't say anything today. But I need to talk with Carol. Just the two of us, tonight. Bradley was about to protest when Carol's voice interrupted their conversation. So this is where you were. Carol took Bradley's arm. Oh, Pat. What were you two talking about? Business, Patricia smiled. I was just hearing about Brad's company's success. That's right. Carol said proudly. Brad is an amazing businessman. I was able to understand something you couldn't. Indeed, Patricia answered quietly. Carol, can we talk privately? Just us women. Carol hesitated a bit but eventually agreed. Of course. Brad, would you wait for a moment? Bradley nodded with an anxious expression and headed to the bar. Patricia guided Carol to a small, empty side room. They sat facing each other. What do you want to talk about? Carol asked, looking somewhat cautious. First, congratulations. Truly, Patricia said frankly. You were very beautiful today. Thank you. Carol seemed to relax a bit. I'm happy. That's the most important thing, Patricia said quietly. That's why I thought I should tell you the truth. The truth? The reason Bradley and I divorced. It wasn't about you, Patricia looked directly into Carol's eyes. It was because of his dishonesty. Carol blushed. That has nothing to do with me. Maybe not. But you should know. His company is on the verge of bankruptcy. What are you talking about? Carol's voice rose. He's successful. He just landed a big contract. Then why hasn't he paid his office rent for 3 months? Why are his main investors preparing for litigation? Patricia pulled documents from her bag. This is the true financial state of his company. One of my clients was considering doing business with him. So I investigated. Carol looked at the documents, and her face changed color. Is this true? It's all fact, Patricia said quietly. He could go bankrupt at any moment. And the real reason he married you, it's your family's influence and connections. Especially Dad's. Carol was desperately trying to hold back tears. Are you saying he doesn't love me? I don't know that, Patricia answered honestly. But I do know he was involved with you during our marriage. And just as he lied to me, he's lying to you. Silence hung between them. Why did you tell me? Carol finally asked. Did you want to hurt me? No, Patricia shook her head. You're my sister. No matter how complicated our relationship is, that doesn't change. I didn't want to see you deceived. Carol began to cry. Patricia stood up and moved next to her sister, putting an arm around her shoulders. What should I do? Carol asked in a small voice. That's for you to decide, Patricia answered gently. But remember one thing. You're not alone. 6 months had passed since the wedding. Patricia was checking her schedule in the top floor of a newly acquired office building. Wilson Financial Consulting had grown rapidly, with staff tripling. She had also launched a successful new investment trust division. Patricia, your 3 o'clock appointment has arrived, Jessica announced over the intercom. Thank you, would you show them in? The door opened, and Carol entered. She no longer had the radiant appearance of a bride, wearing simple jeans and a sweater. However, her expression had a calmness that wasn't there before. Coffee? Patricia asked with a smile. Black, Carol sat in the chair across from her sister. Pat, thanks for your advice. The interview went well. Patricia nodded with satisfaction. Congratulations. When do you start? Next week. My first real job, Carol said, looking somewhat embarrassed. Being an assistant at a design firm isn't glamorous, but I wanted to start something on my own. That's wonderful, Patricia said sincerely. I'm proud of you. As expected, Carol and Bradley's marriage didn't last long. The week after the wedding, Bradley's company's financial fraud surfaced, and investors began taking legal action. Carol filed for divorce a month later. However, she had changed significantly in the process. For the first time, she had decided to stand on her own. Have you talked to our parents? Patricia asked carefully. Carol sighed. It's still difficult. Especially Dad thinks I ruined a wonderful marriage. He can't seem to accept that Brad was a fraud. Time will resolve it, Patricia said gently. It's just hard for them to admit their misjudgment. They drank their coffee quietly. The relationship between the sisters was different now. Instead of competition and jealousy, there was a quiet understanding and mutual respect. Pat, there's something I want to tell you, Carol said with a serious expression. Thank you for telling me the truth that day. You could have punished me, but instead, you helped me. We're family, Patricia answered simply. Yes, Carol smiled. Now I think I really understand what that means. They gazed at the view outside the window. The setting sun cast an orange light across the Charles River. Like the beginning of a new season, their relationship had entered a new phase. While the wounds of the past weren't completely healed, a new bond based on truth and understanding was gradually taking shape.